So this rather dark picture of my living room is the new classroom. And the reason I chose this topic is since I've been tutoring on COLT, I've seen lots of different people come for various different reasons to take the course. And one of the interesting things is looking at their perceptions when they start the course and their perceptions when they finish the course, and how this change. It's a 5-week course. It's quite a short course, but it's also quite an intensive course. And you get exposed to a lot of material, and they do. I think people's perceptions do change quite a lot. So what we're looking at today, I've got 5 myths about online teaching, and we're going to look at basically how true these myths are. And Sean, if you want to carry on with some comments in the chat box, that's absolutely fine, because I know you had lots of content in your talk. But myth number 1 is that you need to be a tech expert. And no, I disagree. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't, if you know nothing about technology. I mean, I don't think my grandmother could do it. But at the same time, you don't need to be a tech expert. You don't need to be fluent in coding. You don't need to eat, sleep, and breathe technology. Because nowadays, I think online teaching and learning has become so common and so prevalent that there are so many different websites, different tools that you can use. And that's what we're going to look at very briefly. For example, you could go right from the beginning, and you could go it all alone. You can create your website from scratch. Obviously, if you're creating your website, you would need some coding or some tech knowledge. But at the same time, there are websites such as Dreamweaver, which is an Adobe program that they help you to build a website. There are also things like WordPress, which is, yes, it's a blog, but you can also have a WordPress website. So there are lots of different tools out there for you to use if you want to create your website. Or you could base your teaching experience or your online teaching experience around a blog. All these links, by the way, are live links, so any of these that you want to go and check out, just click on the link either now or hopefully after the talk, and you can check them out. In terms of blogs, there are numerous platforms these days. I've put down WordPress, Blogger, and Tumblr, just because I think they're probably maybe the biggest or maybe the most well-known. But with a blog, I guess, unless everyone has access to it and everyone has user or moderator access, it's a little bit more difficult to control the content. So it could be more that, you just want to use the blog to share material with your students. Whereas if you use a wiki, and there I put links to Wikispaces and PBWorks, which again, probably 2 of the bigger wiki websites. With a wiki, anyone can edit. It's a collaborative website, a collaborative tool, so everyone who's the member can edit the content, which kind of makes it a different type of learner experience. And then going on from these, we have, for example, what I've called off-the-peg software, where the software has already been designed and created for you, and you can just tailor it to your own needs. So I remove the VLE, or the virtual learning environment. Probably the most famous one, or the most popular one, I should say, is Moodle. And that's what the OTI site that we use is based on. And with Moodle, it's completely free. It's open source. You just download it and add it onto your website. There you would need some tech knowledge, or get the tech guy to do it for you. And you can create it, you can personalize it how you like. In my old school, we used to use a couple, and it went down quite well, and you can adapt it to your needs. We also have online classrooms or meeting rooms, such as Adobe Connect, which we're using today. These, you have to buy an account, you have to pay for it. But both Adobe Connect and Blackboard allow you a 30-day free trial. So you can download it, you can try it with your students, and if you do like it, then you can take the plunge and actually pay for it. However, if you don't want to or don't have that type of capital, Whizzic or WizIQ is very similar to Adobe Connect. It has lots of the same features, and it's free. And View, again, is another, it's similar. And I haven't heard of Classmill, so I may have to look into that. I mean, this is the thing. These types of programs and platforms are being created and adapted all the time. So it could well be that in a month's time, there are 3 or 4 more But I mean, if you see the chat box, people are putting lots more as well, so just follow the chat box. But I mean, maybe you don't want to go into this much detail with your online teaching, and just simple things like Skype or Google Hangouts. You can have conversation classes. You can have like a direct synchronous connection with your student. And Join Me is slightly different because there is more screen sharing, so you can actually show your students your screen, and you can have material on your own screen and you can share it with them. Basically, there are tons, and I would just say go and have a play around and see what works best for your whatever you want to do with it. Which moves us on to myth number 2. And I didn't do this just to put the picture of the cat, but myth number 2, anyone can do it anywhere. And I don't think this is 100% myth, but at the same time, it's not 100% true either. And I'm not saying that because I'm a tutor on Colt and I want you all to sign up for it, but you do need to have some kind of background knowledge. You need to have some kind of plan as to what you're doing and why. The more training or the more experience you have, the better your experience will be. But at the same time, you can't get that experience without going out there and trying it. So, if you're thinking about doing it, I would say take the plunge, give it a go. And myth number 3, that it can be impersonal or isolating. And I think that's quite a common myth because, you have this image of someone sitting alone in their living room or in their bedroom on a computer with no real contact with the outside world. And maybe to an extent that is true, but it depends what you make of the experience more than anything else. And I think all you need to do basically is encourage interaction. If you're teaching a group, encourage that they get to know each other, that you build a sense of community. Simple get-to-know-you activities like we would use at the beginning of a face-to-face class or face-to-face course can be adapted online. Or maybe, it's a different type of course and there is no set time period and people are dropping in and out. Why not, have an area on your forum or whatever platform you're using that, people can just talk about non-course related things where they can just get to know each other in an informal setting where they can share their music interests, they can talk about what they did at the weekend. And, basically, it's down to the tutor, I think, to create this environment. The students, quite often if it's their first time online, they'll be looking to you, the tutor, for guidance. So it is down to you to create a sense of community and guide the people, group them all together, make them feel comfortable. Which leads us on to myth number 4, in that group work doesn't work. Because, you think if you've got students from all over the world at different time zones, how are you going to get people together? It does work. Yes, the time zones can cause problems, but, you have to work around that. That's one thing that you should bear in mind when you are teaching online and you're aiming at students all over the world, is that you could easily have someone from China in the same group as someone from Argentina, for example. In terms of group work, it depends on the type of course. Are you doing it all synchronous or are you doing it asynchronous? If you're doing it synchronous through a platform such as Adobe or Whizzic or something similar, quite often you have the option of breakout rooms, where just as in the face-to-face classroom, you would say to people, right, get into groups of 3, you can separate them into like mini classrooms where you can dip in and out of and see what they're doing. Asynchronous, it's probably a lot easier to bear in mind the different time zones because, they can access the material, whenever they want to do it, basically. And then you can have collaborative documents through Google Drive, for example. They could work through a forum if you are using Moodle or something like that, or even email. It may be old-fashioned to an extent if we're comparing it to things like Google Drive, but email is just as easy. People can communicate whenever they want, and they can create the group project through that type of communication. I mean, I would argue that group work actually enriches the online experience because it makes you feel more, it makes you feel part of the community. You spend so much time at the beginning creating a sense of community. The group work would just further enhance that and make them feel that they are part of a group. And I can see I've just hit the 10 minutes, which is quite good because I'm on to my final myth, which is face-to-face and online teaching are worlds apart. And I disagree. I mean, I think from what I've been talking about, that would be quite obvious. That lots of the things we do face-to-face can be adapted online. But I think Tom's just been saying in the chat box, the main thing is, if you want to teach online, at least try out a course as a student first of all, to get an idea, to see what you like, to see what you don't like, to see what works, what doesn't work. And then once you've done that, play around. I wouldn't recommend going straight into an online course with no experience whatsoever, because you just, you won't have anything to fall back on. Try things out. Maybe start with a blended course using some of your own face-to-face students, so you can actually, try things out. You can maybe set up a wiki to begin with and set their homework on a wiki or something. But you will find that there are lots of things you do face-to-face that can be adapted online, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel at all. It's just a case of trial and error and seeing what works for you. But that was a very, very brief intro to online teaching, and I know I've gone way over the time, and there's lots of interesting comments in the chat box as well, so I will end there.